Hello, my little mathematicians. Today, we're going to write equations based upon shapes. Okay, this comes up quite often. So let's go ahead and see if we can crank this out. Number one says the length of a rectangle is 3 times its width. Okay, so let's go ahead and write that as we read it. Okay, so the length, so let's use a L to represent length of a rectangle is in the math world means equals. And what is it equal to? 3 times what? Its width. Okay, there you go. So length equals 3 times W. So if that's my equation, L equals 3W, and they tell me that the width is 20, what should I plug 20 in for? The width or the length? Well, I should plug 20 in for the width, right? Okay, so I'm going to replace the W with a 20. And then I'm going to solve for L, which stands for the length. Simplify the right side. 3 times 20 is 60. And you get L equals 60. So the length is 60 what? It was talking about centimeters. There you go. And it's that simple. Okay, as always, you can always try to pause the video, try the problem yourself, and then unpause it and come back and check. Whenever you feel confident, make sure you go ahead and try that. Okay, always try it before we do it together. Okay, the next one says the length of a rectangle. So the length of a rectangle means equals longer than the width. And how much longer than the width? It's 4 longer than the width. So I'm going to add 4 to whatever the width is. Okay, there's my equation. Now, I'm going to use that equation to fill out what they told me right here. They told me the width is 6. So I'm going to replace what stands for the width? The W right here, right? So I'm going to replace the W with a 6. Add 4 to that, and that's equal to L, the length. Okay, and then simplify. So bring down my L equals what? 6 plus 4? 10. So the length is 10 or 10 centimeters. Done. Okay, let's try the next one. Again, if you haven't tried these yourself first, go ahead and try that. It says the length of a rectangle, so length is 5 more than. Okay, so more than moves it to the back. Okay, so I'm going to add 5 to what? 5 more than twice its width. So twice means 2 times something, and you're multiplying 2 times the width. That one was tricky. If you got that one right, good job. Okay, so here's my equation. Length equals twice the width plus 5. Technically, if you had 5 plus 2W, that's the same thing, because when you're adding, commutative property works. You can do them in either order, but subtracting order matters. So that like more than moved it to the back, less than like 5 minus 2W is different than 2W minus 5. So if it was minus, order matters, but because it's plus, we're adding, order doesn't matter if you had 5 plus 2W. Okay, with that being said, let's go ahead and substitute in what they told us. They said that the width is 4. So I'm going to replace the W with a 4. Okay, and then you get L is, well, 2 times 4 is 8 plus 5, and 8 plus 5 is 13. So you get 13 inches. Done. Okay. The next one says the length of a rectangle. Okay, so length means equals 10 less than. Here you go. There's the one that matters. Okay, so if it was just less, it would be 10 minus. But because it says less than, it's moving 10 to the back because you're taking 10 away from something. Okay, it's 10 less than what? Well, it's 10 less than 4 times whatever its width is. So my equation is L equals 4W minus 10. If you got that one right, good job. And again, this one, if you had 5 plus 2w, you're still fine. You're still correct. You would have gotten the right answer. But here, if you had 10 minus 4w, that's not saying the same thing. The commutative property does not work for subtraction problems. Okay, now hopefully you got this right. Let's go ahead and fill in. They told me that the width is 8, so I'm going to replace w with 8. And other than that, everything else stays the same. And I can simplify. So bring down your L equals, okay, multiply that before we subtract, and 4 times 8 is 32 minus 10, and then keep simplifying. 32 minus 10 is 22. So my length is 22. We're talking about inches. Done. Okay, last two. Again, if you haven't tried one on your own yet, please pause it, try it yourself first, and then come back. And if you're back with us, you're like, of course, you gave me a hard one, but I have faith that you got it right. Okay, it says the width of a rectangle, so W, is 3 more than, so I'm going to move the 3 to the back. Okay, so 3 more than what? 3 more than half of its length. Okay, so you could have that, or it's saying the same thing as multiplying half of a length is the same thing as dividing it by 2, right? Taking your length and dividing it by 2 is the same as multiplying it by a half. And then we're going to add 3 to that. Okay? Whichever way you want to do it, because it's less writing, I'm going to do it this way. Okay, so they told me if the length is 4, so this time they told me the length. So I'm going to replace L with 4. What is its width? Well, let's go ahead and simplify. First, you have to do 4 divided by 2, which is 2. Bring down your plus 3, and 2 plus 3 is 5. So you get that your width is 5. 5 what? Well, we are talking about inches. And there you go. You're all done. Okay, last problem. If you haven't gotten one right, even though this one's hard, I have faith. You got this. Okay, it says the width, so W, of a rectangle is, means equals, 1 less than, so I'm going to move the 1 to the back. So what am I taking 1 away from? 4/5 of its length. So 4/5 of something, remember, fraction of some quantity means you're going to multiply them. So 4/5 times its length minus 1. So W equals 4/5 L minus 1. Technically, that's also saying the same thing as, like, if this was a number, you could put it over 1 and it's the same thing. Like L and L over 1 is the same thing, right? So 4 times L would be 4L over 5 times that 1 on the bottom would be a 5 minus 1. So you have 4/5 times L is the same thing as 4L over 5. In case you had it written that way, same thing. All right, now let's go ahead and substitute in what they told me. They said W equals 4/5 times, they told me that the length is 10. So I'm going to replace the length with 10. And now let's go ahead and see if I can simplify that. Okay. Well, again, if you put this over 1, 4 times 10 is 40 over 5 times 1 is 5. Bring down that minus 1. And then 40 divided by 5 is 8. And 8 minus 1 is 7. 7 what? We were talking about inches. Okay, now if you didn't want to like multiply across and then simplify, you could have cross canceled and simplified. So 5 can go into both of these. 5 divided by 5 is 1, and 10 divided by 5 is 2. And then when you multiply across, 4 times 2 is 8, and 1 times 1 is 1. So you have 8 over 1, or just 8. So you could have gotten to that 8 faster if you would have reduced. But I mean, if you multiplied across, if you hate cross canceling, you still would have gotten there. Okay, and then your final answer ends as 7. All right, my little mathematicians, you have mastered writing equations for rectangles, which this comes up quite often. So good job.